welcome. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We've had an amazing morning, two amazing speakers. We've had breakfast break here in Australia. England went to bed, and
Yeah.
now we are very excited to be with you. So thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us on this mission. I'm going to do an extremely brief introduction, and then I'm going to open up for you. So Sonya you are a digital marketer and social media trainer and consultant. So you are extremely useful for us mums in business, because this is all where it's at, right? We can have a great idea, but unless we know how to message it up and get it out there, it's not going to go far. So I'd love
Yes.
to pick your brains about, some top tips for our community. But obviously, this summit, it's all about reconnecting, resetting, and rejuvenating from the year we've had and going into the holidays. So I want to talk about that a little bit too. And I know that you've got your own things going on, as we all have. So I want to tap into there and get some of your wisdom around how you have managed over the past year. So I'll open it up by asking you, how have you got to where you are? Give us your story as briefly or as longly as you want. How have you got where you are?
Okay, wow. So, boy, that's been a journey. I am now currently, yes, as you mentioned, digital marketer. I run two agencies, one focused primarily on training in the digital marketing and social media space, and one where we service clients who need it done for them in the digital marketing and social media space. And I've been doing this now over a decade. I think we're around year 12 now. But I'll tell you, so 12 years ago, that's 2008. In the United States, that was when we were in a major recession. So I left behind a career in pharmaceutical sales, but had been in marketing and sales prior to that for a few years. I enjoyed that career, but I knew that it wasn't the long-term goal for me. So when the company I worked for offered voluntary exits, I volunteered to take a slot. They offered a certain number so that they wouldn't have to do layoffs. And from there, I started up this company with my husband. My husband's in real estate. He wasn't sure if he was going to be able to ride the wave in real estate, so we started this company. He ended up riding the wave, was able to stick it out with real estate. I took over the company fully and have been running the operations since then. And it grew from only consulting to really starting to do the service side for clients. And I knew when we launched the company at that time, Instagram didn't even exist. Snapchat, like some of these social networks didn't even exist. And I could tell very quickly that if I'm going to help people grow their marketing for their company and really expand their presence, digital and online is the place to be. So I really immersed myself in it. Year 1 and 2, I went to every online conference and training I could attend, to just really just soak it all the way in. And over time, as we started building and found more clients, it just became more and more of a niche. So a lot of this, there are college degrees in social media. When I was doing it, it didn't exist. It was all experience.
Which is what still goes most of the way, I would have thought. Like, we want, if I'm employing somebody, I want them to have the experience, not the college degree, really, out there in the real world. And it sounds like, so you were there from the beginning, feeling your way and part of really creating that whole.
Definitely. And it's still, I like to tell people it's almost like the wild, wild west in some ways. It's uncharted territory. There are a lot of people doing it. Some agencies do well, some have kind of come and gone. Different people give themselves different titles, gurus, experts, things like that. I just look at myself as someone, I really just want to serve who I work with and really help them just grow as much as they can.
Yeah, beautiful. And with that, and before I ask my question, I just have to let you know the beautiful Abigail has said 12 years. You look amazing.
Thank you, Abigail.
I completely agree. You do. I was shocked too.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing. You'll have to give us some tips there too. So I know that you love working with mompreneurs in particular. That's a little bit of a niche for you. So tell me what it is about this group that kind of makes you want to work there, and what, you know, what draws you to that.
Yeah, I've always had a passion in working with self-employed business owners and small business owners. So that's always been a passion. I think for myself, as I grew into business and even became a mother myself, just understanding what we all have in common, the struggles we encounter, and the balance. I won't even call it a struggle. It's the balance, right? Because we're all able to do it,
Yeah.
of running a business and managing a household and fulfilling all of our other responsibilities as sisters, moms, wives, daughters. It's a lot. And it's something that I understand and hold dearly. And for me, it's really just a passion to help other mompreneurs, working moms, in whatever capacity they're in, really understand how to prioritize. I'm very good at helping the clients I work with build out processes. Women, we tend to like things compartmentalized and organized a certain way. So when it comes to social media, and that's kind of the difference to a degree of working with men versus women. When I work with men, they want to just get out there and start doing stuff. Women usually want to plan. We want to plan, we want to have a clear idea of where we're going with something. And from there, if we want to do it and put it on repeat, we need a process that's going to help us be consistent because we have other things to do.
Yeah.
So even if we're hiring in support, it's easy to plug someone into a process that has been created. If someone's going to manage my social media, I want a content calendar in place, and I want to have my ideas and themes for my business thought about so that I'm setting the person coming to work for me up for success to do well. Yeah, we're planners.
Love that. So that's our number one tip and really tool for us mompreneurs, because we've talked this morning a lot about overwhelm, procrastination, how do you get stuff done, how do you get the scope, but I love that you've brought into the conversation processes and just schedules. And I've written down compartmentalizes, so compartmentalize, compartmentalize, and schedule and consistency, because that's right. We can be, if we're overwhelmed and we do have these numerous hats that we wear and numerous jobs that we do, from business to mama to all of that in the middle, and we can become overwhelmed, and sometimes we might hit good and sometimes we might not, but having a process means that consistently we're going to have that success. So I love that. Like, exactly. It's a tip, but it's one that sometimes when we're in overwhelm we forget to do. So it's like just grabbing at straws, but you bring the system of success in. So I love that. Abby says, I've met both on either side, provide some interesting challenges. Yes, completely. Yep, and exactly. Jen says, yeah, I agree, we are the planners. So I wanted to bring you back to that too. That's a really interesting point from your experience, having noticed this difference with males and females. And I wonder how much is to do with, when you said women, we are more about planning, we like to plan, and men are more about let's just go. I wonder how much of that has to do with our own self-doubt, not readiness to step forward, a bit of procrastination almost. It's like putting another barrier in place and taking action, whereas men seem to be more confident and ready to go. So I wonder how much that comes into play. I'd love your thoughts on that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think with men, whether they believe it or not, they do project certain areas well when it comes to confidence. And I do think as women, yes, we can question ourselves, we can self-doubt. One of the best things said to me by a former business coach early in my career was, Sonya, you need to release perfection. And I hold that quote so dear. And I remember every time I'm about to launch something, and then you start looking over, does this look right the way the website is? Is this sentence correct? Is this flyer perfectly the way I want it to be? Is my Facebook page set up exactly? We can't get stuck in that. It's not that we want to roll things out in a way that doesn't represent us well, but we can get very stuck in our mind of wanting things to look a certain way and be a perfect way. And the truth is, it will never be perfect. And if you don't move forward, you won't move into the process of really realizing your dreams and getting your goals achieved. So release perfection.
Yeah. I love that. I always think imperfect action, take imperfect action. Just
I
take
love
it.
that.
Imperfect action is better than no action at all.
So true. So
Yeah,
true.
but it's hard. So in your experience, because we don't want to stay, it's like it's revealing yourself, but when you're not perfect, isn't it? It's putting yourself out there to be set up for criticism. If you're not
Yes.
out there, no one can say that's not very good. You should have done it like this. You're, that we all take on to some degree. So it's putting yourself out there and then having to kind of deal with that and be able to deflect that and stay true to yourself. So in your experience, what are the things that help women overcome that? Like, because you must end up coaching, even though you're there to do a social media and a digital media plan. I'm guessing that you spend a lot of your time coaching people and encouraging them to take the action. So how do you see them? What's the shift? Do you know what I mean? How do you see them stepping over that mark?
So you're right. It mindset is definitely a piece of the process. And yes, although I'm there to help them execute a very specific action, a lot of it is giving examples and constant reminders on here's how you get through the hurdles. And then what's that saying? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? You have to find a way to take a really big problem or task and break it down so that it becomes more tangible, right? So we've got to take little bite-sized chunks out of the big goal or the big thing that we want to achieve. So along the way, it looks a little different for everyone, but for some people in the beginning of all of that, and this is the case, if we haven't done this for ourselves, it's a lot of times it's defining our big why, right? So coming back to why we're doing something to begin with, because that's part of the shift in mindset. If we constantly remember, why are we doing this? And what is the feeling we get from it? And what does it mean to us that we're doing it? Those are the things that often keep us grounded in pushing further.
I totally agree with that. Remembering why you're doing this. And I think if we haven't got that vision so strong, we are going to fall off because things are going to get tough. We are going to have challenges. There's going to be days where we don't want to and we don't feel like it and we're sick and the kids are sick and something else needs our attention. And it's really easy to go, it's all too hard. If we have that big why we're doing this, it keeps you going through the hard times. I so agree. And I also love that you're saying, keep that feeling you want to have. I think, in my work, we work a lot with the feeling, the emotion. So it's having the feeling that you get from it. Did you mean, just to clarify, kind of going to the feeling that you'd feel when it's there, when you have that success?
Yes.
So embodying that feeling so that you bring yourself into your future reality that way. You literally bring your biology there and put it in the future. And until you can do that, you're not going to get there if you're dragging behind uncertainty and self-doubt and failure. Because if you're in that, you're not there. So I absolutely love that. Do you have any tips and tricks and practical things that, as the how you get your ladies there, or how you get them over that hurdle?
One is, this has been a year where, for me, I know I've had moments of anxiety, and it is a constant reminder, even when you think you got it down, we have to constantly revisit these things. So, one simple practice for me is in those moments of anxiety, remembering exactly what you just said. If I live in this state of anxiety, this is what I'm going to bring into everything I do. All I'm going to do is birth more anxiety. So I need to shift my frequency. I need to move into being into a better state. For me, it's whatever makes you happy. For me, music is a huge mood lifter. So it could be as simple as I have a day where my headphones are on when I'm around the house and I'm cooking and cleaning and I'm enjoying music the way I need to. So it could be something that simple. It could be meditation. And I meditate, but I'll admit I have days where the mind, I don't feel like sitting down to meditate. You know, I have those days too. So I have to find something else to balance it. And, you know, for me, sometimes it's music, sometimes it's meditation, but it's the constant reminder that even though I know I have this goal, I'm not so comfortable that I stop what I'm doing and kind of get lazy, you know, and thinking I'm going to coast to it. So that's probably another piece, which would lead to one other tip. We set goals, but even as we get close to approaching one, we set the next goal, or we need to set something higher. We need to have a stretch goal.
Yeah.
So that would be probably another specific tip, so that we don't get comfortable, right? Because if we get too comfortable, then it's easy what we're doing. And, you know, again, you're not making it to the next level. So I'd say those are probably some of the practices I try to engage in. Accountability partners, definitely having someone you can talk to or confide in, and discuss, you know, challenges, thoughts, things like that. I've been in some women's groups before when I've been able to have those conversations. Sometimes it's just getting it off your chest, and then you'll better about it, and then you move forward, so that again you're not stuck in self-doubt and worry and anxiety and other things that come about. And then I'm usually inspired by peers and what I see some of my peers doing around me. So I do try to stay surrounded by other women business owners and understand closely, what are you doing in your business? How are you balancing? Asking those questions. And sometimes you'll find the common ground. Hey, we're facing some of the same challenges, but we can also help each other through it. I'm trying this. Have you tried that? So just having those open conversations is also a real important piece. Yes, Abigail, peer support, so important.
Yeah, and I agree. There was so much in there, but with the peer support, it kind of serves as multi levels, doesn't it? So on the one hand, you can get stuff off your chest that might be holding you back, and you just need it out so you can let it go. But on the other hand, you've got that peer support, but you've also got, they're going to create those stretch goals. Because if you're cruising and thinking that you're doing really well, and then you go into your group and they've just told you that they've launched a new thing, or they've just gone up a level, then your inspiration goes up a level,
Yep.
and that helps you with those stretch goals. And I love that you've introduced the stretch goals, because it's so true, isn't it? If you, when we wake up in the morning, we want to have the big why, and then we want to be excited about what we're doing. And if we don't have those goals, if we don't have the stretch, it's just the mundane. We don't leap out of bed, and then we're not in that state, and then we're not going to create. And we all know those feelings. I think we've all had moments with no particular stretch goal, and it's all just a bit samey. And then with something really exciting, you know, and we want to leap out of bed and get going. So it creates that energy that then propels us into the day and the creativity. And I love, so you mentioned we can get comfortable. And I think that's such an important concept as well to bring in, that we do have to get used to feeling a little bit uncomfortable, because that's what pushes us, isn't it? So
Yes.
On the flip side, you know, I've been looking at, there's so much gone on this past year, and everyone struggled and have had challenges this year in some form or another. And I always try and flip things and just see the other side. And the one side of being extremely uncomfortable, like many of us have, is that it propels us into change, and it propels us into creating something different. If we're comfortable, we're not going to do something different. And there might be something even greater on the other side. That's not to say we mustn't sit in gratitude and appreciation and peace of mind with what we've had. But if we do have goals of growing our business, we do want to be nudged every now and again into a state that's comfortable, because that's how we grow. Yeah.
Yep.
And
I totally agree.
Yeah, and shifting the state too is so important. So you reminded me of something. I have 2 children, And one of the, I mean, he's come great now, but for a while there, he just used to wake up grumpy ass, and for no particular reason. And so that it's hard because if you're trying to create your energy and create your day, and then you're greeted by just, rah, it's hard. So myself and my daughter got into a habit. There's a song that we have. It's called Good Morning, and I used to put it on. It's like, good morning. So we all knew the song, and sometimes we put it on. So if he came in really grumpy and was like, we'd say, hang on, hang on, hang on, hang on. We'd put the song on. We'd all jump around the room, and then we'd say, okay, what was it you wanted to say? And he'd say, I don't know, because he'd shifted his consciousness. He'd shifted his state. And the problems that he had in that lower state, he was no longer in. And so I think this is a really, really important and really valuable lesson that you're bringing to us, which is that problems, solutions to the problems can't be found within that state of being that the problems are in. We've got to rise above them. We've got to get above them and look down on them and find the solutions.
It's a constant reminder we have to give ourselves. Yeah.
And so music is so Jen's put, great idea, start the day positively with a song. Absolutely, because it sets your day up, doesn't it? Or in the day, so music's one way. What other ways do you use? Meditation, music, dancing around the kitchen?
Yoga, dancing, do yoga just to move the body, and just that release of stress, feels really great. I mean, sometimes it's just a shower, but a long shower, and the time alone, so sometimes, I'm usually the one waking up the kids in the morning and getting them dressed and preparing them. But there might be a day or two a week where I'll ask my husband, I need you to take this over. I want to kind of have some quiet time this morning. For me, in my mind, I'm a tea drinker. So if I drink tea, everything in the world is perfect. So it might be that moment of drinking a cup of tea, but doing it by myself, and having that time, that quiet time. For me, those are the things that really help sometimes create that shift in state and mood. And then sometimes I like comedies. So it could be as simple as going on YouTube and looking for something just funny or silly to watch. Friends, I love Instagram. My friends send me little silly memes and messages all the time. And, some days I'm on the go and in a mood and I don't have time for that. And then it might be, let me go back and look at that meme my friend sent me that I haven't looked at and get a good laugh. So, anything like that really helps.
Totally with you. And for us as well, for me and the kids as well, we love watching animal rescue videos. And I think it's not necessarily that uplifting comedy. We do comedies as well. But it definitely is good shifting states if you're feeling like everything's unfair and the world's, if we're blaming our external circumstances a little bit, those things can be good to shift our appreciation and gratitude of how good we've got it, So I love in changing our states. And for me, nature's a big one too. So just going for a walk in the garden, going and looking at some trees, having a walk around, breathing in the fresh air, just slowing down, taking some mindful breaths. And I join you with the shower thing as well. Just it almost physically washes away your worries. Yeah, wonderful. So let me ask you a bit personal information. So I know that you have kids, you run a business, you're a wife and a mother and all those other things. And this year, as you said, you've experienced challenges and you've actually upped and moved your whole family to a different country, right? So tell us a little bit about what, that and how you managed to do that on top of running the business and looking after the family and how all that goes. And then, we'll unpack what things work for you in all that chaos.
Yeah. Well, talk about a state change. Yeah. that's a definite state change, right? Literally and mentally. So we and even since I talked to you face to face last, Sally, we are currently living in Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil.
Another move.
Yes. So we made this decision. We'd been playing with the idea for several years. It wasn't just because of this year, but this year presented such an opportunity to do it. We decided to act on it. But we'd been toying with the idea of spending some time abroad as a family, an extended period. And we really just earlier this year, I think I'm used to traveling a lot. I travel a lot for work and for clients, and am usually gone a few times a month. So sitting still for a few months was pretty difficult for me. And I think by maybe June or July, I think that's when we took a trip in the U.S. Just a simple trip to some cabins. I took the kids, and that was a nice refresher. But still, kind of felt like I need something more. So for us from the U.S., we made the decision initially when we left the U.S. We started in Mexico, um, whole family, and this is one of those things in managing it, because definitely I had to manage a lot of the pieces. But me and my husband, we split some of the responsibilities. He took the lead on finding where we would live. I took the lead on finding who would help babysit and be a nanny to our children, because for us, this is not a long-term vacation. We are still working, we still run businesses. So we definitely needed childcare, and we explored the options. Would we want to put our children into childcare, or would we want someone to come into the home? And again, because of the virus, we decided to have someone come into the home. So managing that piece, and yeah, to your point, Abigail, that teamwork piece and really kind of splitting some of the tasks was important. And I've gotten better throughout the years. I used to be more hesitant of asking my husband for help, even though he was willing to do it. It was just me trying to take it all on. And I've gotten much better in assigning him, here's, can you do this part for me? And he's gotten better at stepping up, knowing sometimes I allow myself to get overwhelmed and saying, let me take this piece on. So we split up our task, and to get to know the communities that we have been living in advance. Facebook was a big piece for us. I joined a lot of Facebook groups in advance to meet expats. That helped with finding simple things like, what should I expect when we get there? Where should we go grocery shopping? Where do we find some of the modern conveniences that we might have, in the US? So that helped tremendously. So it's been actually a favorable transition. We have been planning it piece by piece. We didn't plan the whole trip as a whole. We're in month 2 of our travels, and we intend on being gone, into 2021. But we don't know where we'll be next. We have our place here booked for maybe another month. Maybe we stay here, maybe we move on. But I think each time we've been able to get set up faster in being minimalist, not trying to pack too much, not trying to take too much, and kind of knowing and having a checklist of what we need to do in advance. So it just goes back to planning and processes, like everything else. And there will be some things we can't control. For me, in those moments of, again, anxiety, I've just said, okay, what can I control? What are the things I can manage? And then the other pieces just have to be dealt with when it's time.
Yeah, awesome. And so, do you have a base in America where all your things are, or are you one of the amazing people who has managed to minimalize it all down to a few backpacks?
I'm not there yet. I have a base in Atlanta, Georgia. That is home to us. So we have a home there. But even in our home, I constantly purge things. So we rented our home out. It's a vacation rental now. And we packed up our personal belongings, to clear it. It's packed in closets in the home, but to make space for the renters. But I have nothing in my home that I feel attached to or of value, and if I did, it's probably at my mother's house. So those types of things for me is pretty easy to release. And then here, clothing, there were definitely, I had to go through my luggage and figure out, what am I taking? What am I leaving? And had to keep paring down. I'm taking too much. I'm doing too much. So that was a challenge. I told my son, he's 5, you can pick 5 toys you can bring with you. So he picked his 5. We have a 1-year-old. We brought about 5 for her. And they've gotten a few gifts along the way, and which we accounted for. And we made sure to carry one giant piece of luggage for extras, toys and swimming things and beach towels and things like that. So it's helped us manage pretty well.
Amazing, because a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old running a business is a lot anyway. And then you throw in, let's just live on the fly around the world. I mean, that is a lot. So what I'm hearing you say is you and your husband are obviously have developed this amazing teamwork, and you have developed up a skill of being able to ask for help when you need it. And he has been developed a skill to be able to know when you need help and stepping in. So I think, to broaden that advice out to our community is delegating is a good idea, because we can't do it all at once. I kind of keep going back to, we can do it all, but not at once. So it's like, what are the priorities? And then you've obviously got, and then it's a lot of women, I think, feel they find it difficult to ask for help, because we feel like we either should to be able to do it all, can do it all, want to do it our own way. That's another thing, isn't it? Being able to let go enough to allow the partners to step in or the nannies to step in. How have you developed yourself in those areas? Because unless you are an incredible woman, but I'm guessing those have been skills that have developed along your journey together as a family.
Certainly, certainly. So it's definitely been one of those areas where I recognize I need to be better. And I probably had that realization for me probably occurred about 5 years ago. Um, we attended this was about a 4-day retreat, my husband and I together, focused on self-development. And during that retreat, there was 1 to 2 days spent on relationships, and that time helped us begin to understand how to communicate together. Like, you hear that there's the book, what is it, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be more true, right? So that going to that event for us helped us understand how to communicate in language that we both understand. And that began, we also did a lot of exercises during that event, which began to help me see where I was taking on too much. And to your point, a little
Yeah.
bit of the Virgo OCD, some combination of that, those tendencies in there where I want to control, or it's probably less control it, but I want it my way. I want it done my way. I started to recognize, let someone else take the wheel, and let's find the areas. So it was simple conversations like, I actually don't really like grocery shopping. He
Yeah.
does.
Right.
So why don't you start grocery shopping? I'll give you the list and you do that from now on, right? Just simple conversations like that. Who's responsible for picking up the kids at the end of the day? Or are there days of the week, or something simple like, even when we're coordinating that, Sundays or Mondays, we have that conversation. What does our week look like? Who's going to be responsible for doing what? And then even throughout the week, we're still checking in with each other. Even this evening, him remembering, oh, I need to take the kids out for a little while because, Sonya's got something she needs to do for an hour or so. So making sure that there's no distraction there, so it's that constant conversation. It's been really valuable for us, and communication, that's what it boils down to.
Well, that's a massive factor. So I'm really glad I asked the question, because we can take things for granted, can't we? But that's a huge one. And I know that over the past year, as well as businesses falling apart, as well as mental health, mental ill health on the rise, relationships are falling apart too. And that's, I'm talking about marriages, but I'm also talking about a business's relationships as well, isn't it? So I think, for marriages, because there's a lot of strain on relationships right now with the finances and the living together part and seeing another a lot. If you're used to traveling a lot, I can see everybody's here nodding away too. There's all kinds of things that have come into play this year with relationships and the challenges of lockdown and co-parenting and all of that. And communication is one of those things that I think a lot of people could spend their whole life having never honed in on the fact that communication is a skill and you can improve it. It's like, we just assume that you're either good or you're not. No, we can learn how to be well. We can learn how to have a healthy mind. We can learn how to communicate better. So I absolutely love that you've brought that to the table, because I really feel like that is going to help families, mums and their immediate families, and also then in businesses. Let's expand that out to businesses. If we have employees or colleagues or bosses or whoever is within that business environment, within our company, we are a bunch of people that have all been challenged this year. And we all might have relationship issues at home, but we still have to come to work and make it work. And we all might have different ways of communicating when we're stressed that are now rearing their heads. And it's like, I think that's such a good piece of advice, to actually block in communication as a skill to work on and to delve into, because there's so much in that, isn't it? If it's in the business, looking at people's different communication styles. I'm assuming this is kind of similar to what your husband experienced. And then figuring out, well, this is just a naturally way somebody hears you more versus the way you do it. So there's not one that's right or wrong. It's just learning how to communicate in one another's style so that we all feel heard and seen and accepted. And just that little tip, I think, could change families, for the better, and businesses. So thank you so much for bringing that.
Sure. Yeah.
Anything you want to add?
Well, I'll say, it's great that you bring up the business side of it too, because working on teams or managing people who work in your business for you, communication, to your point, is huge piece there too. So this year we definitely invested time into, probably more than we normally do, one-on-one attention with some of the people on our team, into having a few large team meetings where we're having really open communication and really discussing things. And again, not in a harsh way, but just in a, let's work through this together. This is a challenging and interesting time for all of us. I've always had a hybrid model, meaning my team has always done some combination of coming in the office, and some of them travel abroad and some of them work from home. So we've always been that way, but bringing to the table, we're all in this experiencing what we've experienced this year. We're all experiencing it in different ways. Some people are at home alone. Some people are with family. Everyone's having a different experience. So even just coming together to talk through that and creating an open area for communication, whether it comes to personal feelings people want to talk about, or work, how that impacts work. We've opened up that door and created that environment for our team. Our last huge meeting we had was around standards, and just remembering, how do we keep our standards high as a team? Because at the end of the day, we're still here to deliver a product to our clients, and we want to make sure that we handle with care. We care about each and every person we work with. We manage it as if it were our own. And so our standards reflect into what we do. So that type of communication has been really critical for us this year too.
Yeah. And I hear you. It's not in a harsh way. It's just in an inviting openness, recognizing that we're all in a vulnerable time. We're all challenged. Our stuff is going to come up, and just having it open so that we facilitate getting through the challenging times, instead of trigger everybody in a different way that it just turns into chaos and disaster.
Right.
And another real thing you said that I'd like to really pinpoint, because I think it's gold as well, is the week planning. So you mentioned that with your husband, you will sit down and you have those times where you're like, okay, I have a friend that does this too, and I'm in admiration of them as a unit, as a family unit. Every morning they drop the kids off and they go for coffee and they plan the day. I'm doing this. Well, can you do pickup? Well, I'm doing this. Okay, great. Can you help here? I'll do dinner tonight. Do. And plan their week out, which I just think is brilliant. And it's kind of common sense, but I don't know that a lot of people do it. And I think, again, extending that into the workplace. So, I'm a big fan of morning get-togethers. It only needs to be 2 minutes, But
Right.
it's like, let's all group. What are you working on today? Break it
Yep.
down into tasks and then go. Do you need any help? Do you need any resources? Go. And then at the end of the day, how did you do? What didn't you do? Why didn't you do it? What do you need to complete that tomorrow? Just
Yep.
like a 1 minute check-in on either side just makes things easy. And then we don't get to the point where things blow out. And when you do have the conversation, it's like, well, if I'd have stepped in a month ago or given
Mm-hmm.
you this one document or resource that you needed, like, why are we here? How have we ended up here? We could just have, that won't happen if you have that regular open communication. And I think the really important thing to throw in there too is the way that that's done. So
Mm-hmm.
somebody needs to feel genuinely heard and listened to, and they need to feel safe enough to say what's truly on their mind. So it's not good enough to have a culture in your workplace where you invite everybody to speak, but then you dismiss what they say, or you don't actually hear them, or that's not going to work. Like, we need to, everyone has to feel
Yeah.
safe enough to be vulnerable. That's where the beauty is, isn't it?
I so agree. Yeah. I so
And
agree. And
I think,
you know,
no, you go.
mhm. Well, I was going to just add just one more thought, which about just kind of having those morning huddles. That was one of the best things when we first started bringing interns on to our business, and wanting to coach and mentor them so that they could lead successful careers in digital marketing. That was one piece. So I didn't do a physical huddle with them because some of them would work virtual, but every day I had a form that they were responsible for filling out on a daily basis, whatever days they worked, usually a few days a week. And that form did have questions on it, like, what do you feel like you got accomplished today? Where did you experience challenges? And it was so helpful to see and read the responses that they would have, because it's things they might not have spoken out about, but when they had time to think about it and type it and knew this is kind of like my daily check-in of what I got done, it created really great dialogue with them. So yeah, definitely great to pinpoint that too.
Yeah. And have you gone from physical face to face to all online working? Has that been a change for you in your business, or did you have, were your staff all online anyway?
Um, we're a mix. We have a physical office in Atlanta that our team rotates in and out of, but we have staff that lives over on the West Coast. We have someone that's in Oregon. We have someone that's in Nashville, Tennessee. And then we have a few people in Atlanta. So we're a mix. I like it that way. We'll probably remain that way. Zoom for us has been a thing for years. We've been using Zoom and meeting with clients this way and meeting as a team this way. So it's a model that we really like.
Yeah, okay. So you've been used to it, because I was going to ask you, has that been a shift? And have you seen, like, I think there's advantages and disadvantages of suddenly going all online. I was going to ask if you've noticed any big things in terms of communication, how people show up. Have you
Yeah.
noticed a difference?
For us, so our side, not so much of an adjustment, but on the client side, watching their shifts, that's definitely been interesting. And it's been fun for us in some ways because we've been able to help them implement more and really get creative, especially earlier this year when everything was shut down and people had to find ways to keep their business going. And how do they market that they're able to meet with people still, and how do they do that in a way that opens it up or makes it private to people they need to have conversations with? So that was probably the biggest shift that we saw.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We've got absolute gold in there. Thank you so much. So we've talked about the power of being able to ask for help, delegating, working as a team, whether that's in family or in the business, learning the skill of communication, and that everyone has different communication styles, and learning how all that works. Like, I just think that would be such a good investment, wouldn't it, for anyone that hasn't gone there yet? And throw into that mix emotional intelligence too. We all have different levels of emotional intelligence, and getting to
Hmm.
unpack that is so valuable within our business and our families. And then delegating in those plannings, weekly plannings. What are you working on? What am I working on? So there's no miscommunication and time wasted. Having those little, oh, I thought you were doing that. Well, no, it's just wasted time, isn't it? And as you've said continually, it all comes back to systems and processes. So you could very easily put a process and a system in around that whole weekly management and communication piece. So thank you so much. So I'm aware of time and I
True.
want to honor your time, Sonya. You've given us so much. I want to ask you the questions I'm going to ask everybody on this particular summit because we are about reconnecting, resetting, and rejuvenating. So, Sonya, what are you, or with what or whom are you going to reconnect with these holidays? What does that mean for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I think in some ways, some reconnect with myself. I think this year and it, probably toward the end of this year, I have been moving at a fast pace. So a little bit of also just part of what we're doing is to reconnect as the family. Not that we were disconnected, but to really have and leverage this time and honor it together. So that's probably a big piece for us.
Yeah, which is huge when this is your time to be together, but you've also incredibly busy with maintaining your businesses and moving around all the time. So that must be a hard, not hard, but a balance that you need to get systems and processes around, I'm guessing, having got to know you a bit better. Yeah, to make it work. So, resetting. What or with whom or with what are you going to be resetting these holidays?
Um, so resetting for me, so I mentioned at the intro, I have two businesses, one focused on training, one on digital marketing services. Reset for me is in our training business, and there are some areas I need to kind of hit the reset button on how we introduce things and roll it out. So it goes back to I have some goals there, and we've achieved some goals, but there's more I want to do. There's more I want to see, and definitely just kind of resetting how I approach that, and really reanalyzing my goals and as a whole. One of my goals earlier this year was to also think about beyond business. What are some of the social causes I may decide to attach my business to at some point in the future? What are things I'm passionate beyond that? And by that, I mean, as I'm traveling and I'm looking to see, would I want to introduce digital marketing to maybe students in another country I'm in? Is there a way I would want to tie those things together? So it's that's a bit personal, but that's an example of just how I'm thinking. And as I hit that reset button and thinking about how do I continue to grow this business and attach meaning and passion behind it on a continual basis, that's something that's important for me.
Yeah, amazing. And knowing you, the little bit that I do you have a framework around how you do that every year?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
How do you set about doing it?
So me and my husband, we do an annual planning, and usually it is just literally a weekend or so that we take, and we walk through what we achieved throughout the year, what were our wins, where were we challenged, where were our misses. So we like to sell what did we not do, what goals were not achieved, and then how does that lead into the following year.
So we lost you a tiny bit there. So I think you said look at where you were challenged in the year and then look at the goals that you didn't hit and then look
Mhm.
at where you want to go next year. Is that correct?
Correct. And celebrate the success of the year that you had, what successes you had too.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And then rejuvenate. How are you going to rejuvenate? And what do you feel needs rejuvenating? Could be you, could be someone else, could be the business, could be what does that mean to you?
Yeah. For me, right now, Personally, I'm focused on some physical rejuvenation. I've got a 1-year-old, so I'm at a year mark, but still, for me, I'm recovering in a way where I still want to get back to stretching a certain way and just doing other things the way I have in years past. So that's a physical rejuvenation for me more than anything. And just kind of getting back to the core of certain things I want for myself. So, in business, I think it all flows hand in hand with that reset that I just mentioned in terms of how we rejuvenate and how we spring into the year on a high note. So that's probably what's most important.
Yeah, awesome. And that is important, isn't it? We've been talking, we've had a theme of self-care, like prioritizing this a little bit more this year too. And so thank you. So what is, I'm going to leave you with this. What is the one question in this whole resetting, reframing, going into really that mindset of planning out everything and revisiting the year that's been and planning the year that's coming? What do you think is the most important question for people to ask themselves?
I go back to the why. What is your why? Why are we doing this? And just keep asking that question and dig deeper. I was very challenged to do this again by a business coach I had early in my career. And if she really pushed me, because she would ask me, what is your why? And she would keep pushing me, go deeper, go deeper, go deeper. So the deeper we can get into beyond the surface of, well, I'm doing this because I want to take care of my family. Why? You like keep asking that question and really pressing it in to understand more deeply why we're doing what we do.
I think that's absolutely gold. Yeah, I think that's absolutely gold. Sonya, you have been amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy life over there in Rio de Janeiro. Is that where you said you were currently? You're in Rio at the moment?
Oh, Rio de Janeiro. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Thank your husband for taking the kids out for us so that we could get you for an hour. Where do we find more of
Alrighty.
you? I'm obviously going to send out information about you. We're going to, everyone will get the email and we'll talk about you. But where can people who are here, where can we find you? Where can they follow you? Where's best?
Sure. I am on pretty much every social media network under Sonya Crystal, Sonya with a J, Crystal with a C. And my website, my personal website is simply sonyacrystal.com. And I did create a special link with some things for mompreneurs that are here today. So it's just sonyacrystal.com/mompreneurs.
Wonderful. And thank you so much for doing that. I will send it out to everybody here.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Sonya.
Thank you all. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate you all.
Wish you all the very best for the holiday, reset, rejuvenate, reconnect, and I'll look forward to speaking to you in the new year. Take care.
Okay. Thank you all. I'll
Bye.
hang out a bit.
Bye. Thank you so much. So everyone that's online, I would absolutely love it. I'm going to always ask you this question. I do whenever I'm teaching or with you. What was one takeaway you got out of that? So we don't want you to come here and thank you, Sonya. We don't want you to come here and just listen. What's something that's going to change in your life as a result? What's one takeaway that she said that hit home? What's something that you're going to think about? The more that you kind of get involved with what we hear, the more it goes in, the more learning we have. So I'd love you to just take that one piece of action and just write in the chat, what's your one takeaway that you got from Sonya today? Because she gave us absolute gold. I just loved it about the processes and the systems and asking for help and communication and working as a team and, planning together and delegate it and digging into your why. I think that's absolutely gold. I completely agree. It's not enough to just accept the first layer that presents itself when you ask yourself why. It's digging into that, but why, but why, but why. So please just let's see your comments in the chat. What was one thing that you took away from our time with Sonya this morning? How important working in tandem is with your partners and spouses. Yes, trying to do everything yourself will burn you dry. Totally, totally, totally agree. And we've got the thumbs up from Sonya. Thanks, Sonya. I think Sonya is incredibly, I won't say lucky because I think we create our own luck, but has chosen incredibly well with her partner. And clearly they've chosen to go on a journey together and grow together, which I think is so important. But even if it's not with our, you know, romantic partner, I think there's so much in there for our businesses, isn't there? It's just communicating and working well and figuring out where you're you know, the things that you're good at and the things that you can delegate, and where somebody else's thing, like she said with the grocery shopping, she actually doesn't like the grocery shopping and he does. So why am I trying to hold on to do everything? So having those conversations within our businesses about what would you like to do and what can you do, I just think that's going to free us all up to spend our energy where it's most, where we get most value in return, really. The juicy, yeah, so Avery said, thanks Avery, there's lots in there, but one juicy one is the idea of sitting with my partner and or my kids and checking in highs and lows of the year, what we did well, what we might do differently if we have the chance to do it again, which you will. And so simple that easy to skip. I think that's gold, because we often, we might review briefly in the year, but getting the family involved, yeah, why not? And those challenges, when the challenges came up, what did we do and what could we do differently when they come up again? And I haven't seen it in there, Avery, but also she said, you know, celebrating the wins, like celebrating the wins. And I know that you've had loads this year. So yeah, getting the family involved. Absolutely. Thank you. Learned a lot from Sonya. My best takeaway is planning is key. Yeah, letting go of OC-ness as well, because aiming for perfection will just cause you more stress. Absolutely, letting it go and just taking that imperfect action, moving on. And planning. Sonia's big about processes and systems, which I love, especially this year. Absolutely, this year has been an abnormal year. So we need to definitely take stock how far we've come, where we're going, how we're doing, how we can do better, and celebrating that we're all still here and rolling on and we've got lots to celebrate. So thank you all so much.